Good morning, everybody. Will Van Vactor, County Manager. This is a special meeting of the board, and I know Seth, Commissioner Crawford, you were here last week under the, I think it's order 2023-13. I remember correctly, this was looking at it last week, but you automatically become chair of the board based on the rotation that is set up. So you weren't here last week, so Commissioner Barney stepped in temporarily, but we're assuming you want to assume the chair role. So I don't know if you want to take the meeting off today or if you want me just to roll with it, but I don't know if we need to. I don't know if we sounds good. I don't know if we need the chair to open the meeting, but open. Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Crawford. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. This is going to be a busy week. We're going to start this morning and tomorrow morning with mid-year presentations from all of the county departments. We will follow that up starting Wednesday with goal setting for the board. This will set up our fiscal year 27 planning process. Before we begin this morning's mid-year presentations, I want to take a couple of minutes to highlight why we do this each year. Mid-year presentations are a structured and transparent touch point for both departments and the board to review how things are going as we move through the fiscal year. They're not simply a procedural requirement. They're an important opportunity for us to assess department progress, identify new or ongoing challenges, monitor budget performance, and enhance transparency and accountability. Mid-year presentations are also important because the information provided through the mid-year presentations both today and tomorrow will lay the foundation for our upcoming board goal setting discussions, again starting on Wednesday afternoon. As you listen to the mid-year presentations, I encourage the board to reflect not only on day-to-day operations, but also on how department progress, challenges, and resource needs may inform countywide priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. Along those lines, you can keep in mind questions like, do our current goals remain the right goals, given the realities and opportunities we're facing? Are these emerging challenges, cross-departmental themes, or innovation? Are there emerging challenges, cross-departmental themes, or innovations we should focus on? How well are we aligning resources, policies, and service expectations with what matters most for Crook County residents? Mid-year presentations are a critical touch point in our annual budget and planning cycle to help ensure our goal setting and subsequent budget decisions are based on real current information from all areas of county government. For today, we're going to hear from administration and board of commissioners, the juvenile department, the sheriff's office, district attorney, finance, legal, human resources, information technology, facilities, veteran services, and public health. I appreciate all of the work and preparation that department has put into preparing for these updates, as well as all the work that Jamie Berger has put into making sure we have all this information put together for your review. And with that, I'm ready to start our mid-year presentation. We're going to start with admin and board of commissioners. I'll just roll into that. Any questions for me? So for admin and the board of commissioners, I'm going to focus on progress made so far in fiscal year 26 and also look ahead to upcoming priorities. I'm going to start with some ongoing kind of key priorities. The first one is to complete the core service description review and have the board adopt that. Goal is to have that adopted early this calendar year. By completing the core services review, we support the board's fiscal year 26 goal of clearly defining and delivering outstanding services to the community. By completing the core service descriptions, we also ensure we are explicit about what services the county provides and to what level. This work also supports quality of life and community expectations by helping the board prioritize services that most directly benefit residents. These service definitions form the foundation for budgeting, staffing, and long-term planning decisions, and support four goals. Goal number one, outstanding service to the community, and goal number four, enhanced quality of life, usability, and safety. Priority number two, financial sustainability. The second priority is directly aligned with the board's financial sustainability goal. Fiscal year 27 planning is focused on aligning departmental needs with realistic long-term funding strategies. This includes identifying efficiencies while protecting core services adopted through the board's service definition process. This work also ensures we are proactive rather than reactive in addressing rising costs and revenue streams. Priority number three, long-range planning. This third priority ties directly to two board adopted goals and priorities for fiscal year 26, communications and facilities planning. The communications plan supports transparency, consistency, and better engagement with both the organization and the community. The facilities plan ensures the county is planning for long-term operational needs and capital investments rather than responding to emergencies. Together, these efforts support efficient service delivery and responsible stewardship of county resources. Next, I'll quickly kind of run over a few things we've completed. Over the past year, the administration has focused heavily on transparency, efficiency, and public engagement. With IT support, we've implemented a new agenda builder that improves efficiency internally and transparency for the public. We also documented a public meeting workflow and adopted a meeting recording policy to ensure consistency and accessibility to the public. With Commissioner Crawford's leadership, we supported the first ever Crook County College, which is designed to educate and engage residents about county government. That county college is wrapping up this month or next month, I believe. I think it's been a success. Additionally, both myself and Commissioner Herman completed the AOC County College program, providing an opportunity for us to learn more about the important roles and all of the different functions that county governments provide their residents. Lastly, the board also has provided strong advocacy on behalf of Crook County, including during the 2025 legislative session. And the board has also been engaged in other efforts to ensure fair funding for critical county services, including mental health. Next, I'll highlight some ongoing near-term projects. Also, with the support of IT, we are working towards implementing a new county website to include communication and public engagement. Fiscal year 27 budget planning is ongoing, or really kind of starting in earnest. And this will include longer-term sustainability plans, all of which will hopefully be completed by the end of this fiscal year. Core service descriptions will be adopted by the board. Again, we'll hope to have that completed here in the next month or so. We also are working on a public records request policy update. This will include not only an updated policy, but also an update to our internal procedures. We hope to have that completed in February of this calendar year. Next slide. Ongoing or in the works or about to be started. Internally, we are reviewing and updating the service fee structure, internal service fee structure to ensure transparency and fairness for all departments. As I noted, the countywide communications plan kind of starts and stops, but we hope to have that completed before June 30th. And then I'm also hoping to have a conversation about some span of control issues within the administration and ensure appropriate supervision and organizational efficiency. Looking ahead to fiscal year 27, I envision continuation and implementation of existing projects and priorities. The focus will increasingly shift from planning to implementation as we move into fiscal year 27. we hope to ensure that initiatives like the communications plan and facilities plan, and other projects we're working on are fully operational and delivering the values we anticipate in fiscal year 20. Challenges, rising costs and uncertain funding and growing service demands are two challenges. Crook County, along with other counties in Central Oregon, continues to grow as far as population goes. This presents some challenges in terms of service delivery because it increases the demand for our services. But unlike some other counties elsewhere in the state where property tax revenue is more or less flatlined, this growth also provides an opportunity for additional revenue that other jurisdictions aren't necessarily seeing. So it also presents an opportunity. It's not just a challenge. Lastly, just a quick slide on the admin budget. Expenditures are about 47%, indicating spending is tracking appropriately at the midpoint of the fiscal year. Staff will continue to monitor trends closely as we continue to plan for fiscal year 27 and move through fiscal year 26. And I hope I stayed within my time limit. But I'm happy to answer any questions the board has about maybe a presentation for admin.
It's so perfect.
Well done.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Next up.
Was perfect. I'm not sure to follow up. Now we have someone to pick on. I'll do my best.
If you want to sit, if you prefer standing, you can stand too. Okay. All right.
Good morning.
Some of these you've seen over the years because they just change a little bit as our core services are identical throughout the years. But the first one there, increased diversion options for youth, reducing the amount of youth in our formal court system. So in the last few years, we've heard that there's not a lot of docket space. The district attorney, sheriff's office have been overstretched as far as time goes. So we've really worked in our office on trying to increase options for youth and maybe keep them out of the formal court system. That was one of my goals last year, to keep kids in our community and working with our office essentially on the informal probation. So they're out of the court system, but they still have probation requirements. We were able to keep 82% of our referrals were not petitioned to the court system. Sure. My goal was 60%, and we were able to be at 82%, and that's huge. And that aligns, of course, with public safety and quality of life for our residents, in the sense of when you're taking kids out of the community and putting them in other places, you disrupt family members and everybody who's left here. Number 2, communication and collaboration with community partners who serve our youth in silos. And the last 2 juvenile justice summits, what we've learned, what's been the trend is that when we're able to work collaboratively and cooperatively with our community partners, you tend to, it reduces the recidivism, which I know sounds very logical, and it seems like it's, but that has been a difficult thing in the past. This last year, we've really worked hard on making sure that we're communicating regularly with our community partners, making sure that we hold space to have difficult conversations. And I think what's happened is when you meet with them regularly, you're able to have those hard conversations, which has just increased our ability to serve youth. And we're able to learn community partners' limitations and our limitations, and it has just, we're building a good team here in Crook County for the youth, and so that they're able to stay in their community and maybe stay out of the court system. Reduce recidivism, keep youth out of authority custody. So this last year, 78% of our referrals were misdemeanor felons. That is a huge increase than what we've had in the past. We've only committed 2 youth to Oregon Youth Authority, and 54% of those youth qualified for Oregon Youth Authority. So 54% of the youth that we had law enforcement referrals for were classing misdemeanors and felonies. And we were able to keep all of those youth in the community, meaning that they didn't escalate to Oregon Youth Authority, they weren't in the state's custody. We only had to commit 2, which is a huge for saying, going back to the first 2 as far as increasing our diversion options and communicating with our community partners. I really think that shows sort of I'm hoping that there's going to be a trend, and next year I'll be able to sit here and give you the same kind of information, because I think we've really helped keep you out of the state custody by increasing your opportunities here in our community. So we had some money left in a grant, so we were able to purchase our one curriculum, which is another diversion opportunity. So if a youth comes in and has a charge, we usually require that they do 1 to 10 diversion classes, and that could be anything from theft talk to our change company booklets, victim impact panel. There's a variety of other things depending on what their crime is and depending on what their risk level is. And we were Norcor, which is one of our detention facilities that we utilize, uses R1 curriculum. So we were able to purchase R1 curriculum so it stays consistent. So if they do end up in detention or they do end up in a 30-day program, the curriculum they're using there, we're also using here. So it's a continuum. So they're just not jumping all over the place, and we're building on the same skills and using the same curriculum to teach them those skills, so that they're not just starting over every time they come back to us. We have increased our community service partners. My county department heads have been amazing. We have youth now doing community service at the library, at the landfill, at the fairgrounds, at the road department. It's been amazing to have kids be in our community, work with our community, just our county departments, and kind of learn to they feel invested, and they're able to sort of walk around and recognize people. It's really helped. We have had a few kids up at the road department recently who really have enjoyed that, and they're getting a lot of skills that they wouldn't get necessarily out there on their own. We were full force into our restitution program. I talked about this, I think, a little bit last time. So youth are able to work basic community service after they've completed their required community service hours. They're able to work community service, and we pay them minimum wage. We don't actually pay them, but the grant, we have a grant that is paying the minimum wage, so they're able to pay their victims back. So if they do damage to someone's fence. In the past, we used to have to close those out, and the victim really did not ever see, the money from that. We're able now for those youth to work that off, and our restitution, youth paying the restitution has increased tenfold. They're able to do those hours again with our community service partners and get their victims paid. So. Substance use life skills group. I talked last time about our increase in MIP, which continues to be a trend. Youth using substances. That was a hole in our system, and that was one of the going back to working with our community partners. We worked with Rimrock. We now hold 2. When I say in-house, it's here at the Justice Center and in our office. We hold 2 life skills substance use groups. 2 days a week, one for females, one for males in our office. Rimrock comes those 2 days and does those groups, runs those groups for us. That's been great. So we're able to have some sort of outpatient for those youth, where before the outpatient kids weren't able to access that other than a one-on-one mentor. Anger management, we did have an intern from M3 Alliance that was in our office for a semester, 3 months, and she was able to run anger management groups, meet with kids one-on-one and do assessments. That was helpful. And through M3, we were able to work with a grant, we partnered with them in a grant, and we were able to offer equine therapy groups for our youth. That was amazing for our kids to participate in that. Again, giving kids opportunities they wouldn't have other than if they were involved in our department. And we are now doing monthly best care meetings, which is one of our biggest community partners. There was a time when we were not speaking regularly about youth, and we would find out the youth was discharged and we didn't know why the youth was discharged, you know what I mean, and just getting the ball rolling again. And now we are doing monthly best care meetings. So our youth, their care is consistent rather than they don't show up to their meetings for 3 times in a row and then we have to get them back enrolled. They're getting through their therapy a little quicker than they have in the past. Currently in progress, again, scheduling and maintaining meetings with community partners. I think this year we're working on having a monthly meeting with DHS or every other month meeting with DHS. Again, I talked about Rimrock and Best Care. There is a new expungement process for juveniles with misdemeanors. They've increased the crimes that are eligible for automatic expunction. So I think this year, Crook County, I think I'm trying to remember the exact number. I think we completed 62 automatic expunctions, which means that kids don't have to apply for those. Those just come through the state that we say, hey, this kid's eligible, and we expunge them. So that doesn't include the kids who come in and request to have their record expunged. That, and you'll see later in a slide, that fee is increased. It was a little over, I think it was $220 for each expunction that we completed. And they have increased that. So the county receives about a little over $300 now for expunction just because of the time that it takes to go through those. Our one curriculum, going back to we just purchased, we've gone through some training. So we're in the process of figuring out how to run those groups in our office. Collaboration with local mental health provider. I was told yesterday that we do have a young lady who is wanting to work in our office. So we'll have another mental health intern in our office who's able to do any kind of crisis intervention that we need, any kind of assessments that we need done, run some groups and meet with those low-level kids that maybe don't need to go to best care or don't have insurance or any of those kinds of situations. She'll be able to meet with those kids. And we do have a new Rimrock Trails MIP referral process. The youth who come in for their very first MIP are now we're able to sort of divert them to the Rimrock has a new assessment center that has walk-in hours. So we're able to refer those kids immediately to Rimrock to get an ACM and get back information from them on whether or not they need to be in any kind of services with our office. Before June 30th, we're going to implement R1 groups in our office. We're going to have monthly meetings with DHS. I just talked about the MIP referral process, and also what should be on there, which like I said, I didn't have confirmed until yesterday, was that we will have a mental health intern in our office once again. We had planned in the 5-year plan to have a new transport vehicle this next coming year. That will replace our last old falling apart vehicle in our fleet. Those cars are used every day, all day. I mean, it's very rare that you'll see our cars parked out there. My people are taking kids to and from their mental health appointments, to and from school, to and from treatment. We really, those are a huge part of the success of our office and what we do for kids. So it's really important that we have vehicles that work. And then I talked about the updated reimbursement fee for expunction. So that'll bring in a little bit more money. Same challenges, but I've always had is the outside community placement resources. Really, resources are our challenge. The trend tends to be, and of course I don't have any numbers, but the trend tends to be that we have a lot of youth right now where they hit about 15 or 16 and they don't have a place to be. They end up in detention and they end up having a longer stay in detention, which of course the county then pays for because we're looking for a place, a home for them to be there. We have, they don't have family resources, family's not willing to take them in. We just recently had a youth that is now living in Arkansas with the grandma. He spent an exorbitant amount of time in detention that he would normally not have been. in, just due to the fact that we don't have a place for it. So that's kind of where, you know, that fiscal piece of the more resources we can have, the less time kids are spending in detention, the less money the county's spending on those youth. OI placements, state funding is, as we know, is in a crunch, and OI placements, they're also feeling the burn on that. So placements that we share with OYA, they're tending to get those beds versus county kids who don't have an OYA commitment. And going back to mental, I mean, the trend continues with mental health youth that are in acute mental health crisis that come through our office. The spend is on track for this year. The received is 3%, and that is due to the fact that we bill for our grant site. So we have to collect that information. So that goes back to our we do our in-house ankle monitoring that we pay for. The grant helps pay for and reimburse, and our UAs and that restitution program I talked about. So it just takes a moment to get those billing. I think currently, as we speak, Tracy was pulling information for our restitution kits so that we can get those victims paid, and that'll increase our received year to date. Any questions? Yes.
I had a couple questions. One, you talked about, 82%, avoided the court system, 78% of referrals, Can you give some generalized numbers to what that 82% of what, 78% of what, just so we understand?
Yeah, I brought a cheat sheet for you. I figured that might be a question. So we this is the numbers are a little bit skewed. So these are individual youth. So if you have a youth that comes in with a felony, and then they come in 6 months later with a misdemeanor, that youth has only been counting once for their most serious crime. Does that make sense? So overall, that was for misdemeanors and felonies, that was 73 youth. And 23 of those were felonies, 27 of those were class A misdemeanors, 23 of those were lower misdemeanors. We also had 16 non-criminal referral violations, and that would be MIPs or those types of things. Now, it is not, like I said, because a youth could come in for a felony and also have 3 MIPs, so they're only counted for the felony in those numbers, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So yeah, so we had 29% were class A misdemeanors, 25% were, and that's 23 youth for felonies, 27% or 27 youth for class A misdemeanors.
Okay. And then my second question related, I guess it expanded, but it all relates around that grant category. I mean, you talked about, let me just lay out 2 or 3 of you can answer. One is, you talked about purchase of the R1 grant curriculum. Are you able to continue using that curriculum, or is that a one-off and you have to go get a grant to buy the R1 to reuse the same curriculum next year? So
that's a great question. We did some research, and what R1 is they're being used in prison systems actually all throughout the state of California, and they're adopting them in Oregon. I know this sounds weird, but it's kind of like a deck of cards. And so you're able to sort of zero in on what a person believes their biggest issues, their obstacles are of overcoming, for example, substance use or their criminal behavior. So we're able to use those for all years.
So you could use that same curriculum you got a grant for this year, next year.
Absolutely, okay. Yes. Yeah.
And then restitution program grant curriculum, are you going to have to go find a new grant for that next year?
If my state funding decreases, yes. So far, this will be my 2nd year that they have granted that in our grant. We've been able to offer this. I believe we're in, like, it's been a year and a half-ish that we've been able to offer the restitution program. And as long as my state funding stays stable from that grant, I'll be able to keep offering that to our youth and our company.
Same thing with the ankle.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those right now are in the general fund, so those costs could, I could come in for, propose a budget where it includes ankle monitoring. I've been able to include that in my grant, so it's, we've been able to sort of obtain that through the grant. If we believe, if that funding gets cut, and we believe that that's been a huge deterrent, or, it's been huge in our recidivism rates, I would have to come and present that as part of my general fund budget.
And then lastly, you kind of answered it at the end. You talked about that intern that was so helpful. from MH, and you suggested at the end that there's another one volunteering.
Yes.
for that, so there's continuity there without any increased cost potentially.
Yes, the first intern we had, was kind of a trial, both for M3 Alliance and for us to see how that went. And fortunately, Hope Porterfield, who runs M3 Alliance, believes, you know, the intern did well, and she feels like it was a benefit to not only her intern, but our office. So she was willing to offer us another intern. So I will just keep advocating that it's helpful in our office, and hopefully, you know, we are the chosen ones again in years to come.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
So before Christmas, I got to spend the day with the juvenile department in a van, the entire juvenile department. And we went to Bar 7's facilities, and we visited Grandma's house. We visited the loft, and we visited Canal House. And I want to commend the juvenile department, the way they banter, the way they get together, and most of all, the way they care. When we were at the loft, Erica took a girl and very non-intrusively got more information out of her than I could ever believe, which was you had to saran wrap your heart. When you came home, it was a very, very sad thing. And it became very evident that in Prineville, we need to work towards a Canal House, which is a place where you take 12 to 17-year-old children. And in that instance, they have 6. So I'm supposed to give Tammy Bainey, who's the head of Health Council and COIC, my hours, and we're going to try to work to see if that's something that we can do here in Prineville, because that stops them being homeless going out. It's trying to get it before it happens. But I do want to say I've never enjoyed a day so much, mostly being in the van and bantering about Erica's driving. They really get along well. They and our juvenile very lucky in Crook County.
I appreciate that. I mean, we really work hard to be a team. And really the numbers that I shared, which I kind of was talking super fast, so I didn't go over my time. I apologize, Jamie. But really is a credit to my people. I mean, they hit the ground running every day, and they do, you know, we don't stay in our lane, and we make sure that, you know, if you need, we want to move all of the barriers. So that means you need a ride to mental health every other day. That's what we're going to give you. Because it does nothing for the community if we're just, you know, monitoring their criminal activity and trying to punish that piece. We're not really making a difference. So our hope is that by the time they get to, you know, adulthood, that we're seeing less of them in our jails. The goal, right? Sometimes we're really good at it, sometimes not so much. So
You've given them a heck of a try.
yes, I agree to that. And this county would benefit hugely from a situation like the Canal House. As we were visiting, I told return work that we could fill it today with youth that are just cow topping, or we're constantly trying to figure out, you know, how we can move them from place to place, or you know, they go to their grandmother's house, they go to their uncle's house, we're calling family members they haven't, you know, heard from. Those kids really need a consistent place to be, and the place that isn't in another county. So not that we don't use those resources, but they're in Deschutes County, and it does more for our community when we can keep our kids here, and working with their families and everybody. So
With something like that, it's like, obviously they can't drink or do drugs while they're there.
Correct.
It's
yeah, and one of the
Really
things that we talked about, and I don't
high
know,
barrier.
this is of course like a pipe dream that we're laying out there, but one of the things we talked about was that depending on, you know, the structure of that and the funding and all of whatever that looked like, juvenile department would be very involved, whether we ran a house or whether, you know, or whether we were super involved. And so all of those kids, yes, would have regular UAs, you know, regular case management, all the things we do for them at their home, we would be doing for them while they were in
They have to go to school. It's a way to help them go on and actually achieve success when they're coming from a bad situation. And again, it's stopping them going into adulthood with that. It's trying to stop that trend. So if out of 6 kids you could help 3, it would be amazing.
Yeah. And going back to education, what we know is that if they are at the Canal House, if our youth are staying at the Canal House, they have to get up for the bus in the morning. I think it's something like 4:30 in the morning. I mean, their ride is long, because they have to pick up they can even deliver the homeless youth to get them to Crook County. So having a place here locally, those youth would have, more of a regular schedule. The big push in our office, as we all know, is education. So I think this year we had, a little over 20, and I don't have the paper with me, of youth that have been involved in our office who graduated from high school this last year. So that's huge for us. I mean, we just feel like it doesn't matter where you are. If you're going to Norfolk for 10 days and you come home for 10 days, those 10 days you're going to go to school every single day. You know what I mean? We'll just jump off that because we know that without an education, without a high school diploma, these kids, we're not setting them up for any kind of success. So at the end of the day, if we can even get their diploma while they're in residential treatment, which we had a youth who just graduated from NARA, and he completed his high school diploma while he was at NARA. So yeah. Any other questions?
Two quick questions.
Yes.
One, the expansion process for juveniles, that fee of $300. Are there funds available to help pay that fee for the juveniles that don't have the ability to cover that?
So that fee actually, so the $300 actually comes to us from the state for every automatic expunction that
Okay.
the Crook that
So
we
it's state
do.
funded.
So that's state funded. Youth that come in and apply for those expunctions, they have to do it through circuit court, and I don't know, their fees are not that high. I don't exactly know what their fees are to file the paperwork upstairs. I want to say it's like $60,
Okay.
but I could be wrong on that. They always come into our office, and so we're always willing to help in whatever way we can. And sometimes those fees are waived depending on their situation. But the $300 actually is income to the county for our office expunging those records out of the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
The other is a general question also, but how do we solicit the community involvement for finding opportunities for placements?
I have a wonderful community service person in our office who does reach out to community partners. Sometimes we're a little bit hesitant just because we don't want to expose you who might be on our caseloads giving to regular community members. So that has to be sort of an MOU with them because there's some confidentiality issues with that. But we're always willing to take, if somebody offers or is willing to come and say, hey, I have I have a ranch that I want, youth to work on or whatever, I think we could probably work with the county and with, finance and get some insurance stuff going on, that you could do that. I think what happens when it's just private businesses is the confidentiality issue that we run into.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
You're on the hot seat.
We're gonna take 10 minutes, you think?
Sure, you can listen. I mean, it won't take that long. We could
5 minutes.
move our break up and just switch it.
We need to take 5 minutes to address a quick technology issue. So.
We'll just do 5 minutes, so we'll be back. Let's just say 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Not a technology.
Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate your patience during that unscheduled break. I think we are back online, so we will move forward with Terry Hathorn, the district attorney.
Good morning. I think I can probably get us back on schedule, maybe. So our goals and key priorities that we've been working on, I think aren't a secret. Increasing efficiency, trying to move our cases a little bit more quickly. We have more cases, more serious cases, and a green office. We've had a lot of turnover. I'm hoping that we find some stability, but as a result of that, we have to figure out how to train people more quickly, get people up to speed more quickly, and provide services and increase community safety with the resources that we do have. So these have been our key priorities. Next slide. So I hired a new deputy district attorney. He is he's been working as I don't remember what we called it, graduate attorney is I think what it was called when we developed the position, as a recruiting effort. So hiring straight out of law school, you can work for 1 year out of law school on the law clerk student appearance rule. So he is taking the bar end of February, and if he doesn't pass, then he can't continue working, so you can only do it for a year after graduation. So hopefully he passes. It's contingent on him passing the bar. Hired another prosecutor. Many of you know him. He worked here and started his career in Crook County. I then worked with him in Deschutes County and recruited him back. I appointed him as my chief deputy. So we have one vacancy currently for DDA. And then we hired our DA investigator, which is probably our biggest improvement as of late. So it took some time to both find and recruit, as well as to have background completion done. That has been fabulous. It's been really, really helpful in implementing and working on our cases from like top down. It's been super helpful. Implemented the new hire checklist, some of the things and tools that we've put into place in order to get people up to speed more quickly, giving them more resources, having to streamline. There's only so much of me that can go around. And so trying to create and make more automatic some of the tools. You can go to the next slide. Obviously still continuing to train, the more consistency and the longer people are here, the more consistency we have. Especially when you're hiring greener prosecutors, it just takes time to learn all the nuances and all the landmines that you might experience. And so continuing to train, our DA investigator is really hitting the ground running in building both policies, right? This is the first time we've had a sworn peace officer position in my office. So everything from what are our templates that we're going to use? How do we make sure that they can communicate with other agencies, getting access to all the different databases, figuring all of that out. We don't write police reports generally in our system. So how are we going to create that process? So all of that is getting up to speed pretty quickly. He's fabulous. Has really worked on a lot of our child abuse cases. And I'll talk at the end some grant funding that I was able to obtain in order to support that position. Go to the next slide. With our law enforcement implementing Axon, one of the challenges was so we receive a lot of digital evidence in our office. Evidence.com is an Axon product and works directly. So we should be able to get their digital evidence more easily and has unlimited storage. A couple of years ago, the legislature modified and changed some of the statutes with what we call discovery. That means all the police reports, all the videos, everything that law enforcement creates. We have to obtain that at the very beginning of a case and provide all of that. The more recordings we have, the more digital storage that requires, and the digital storage requirements have been increasing. Our current software system charges us per storage use. And so we only get a small amount that's included in the package with Carpel, which is our software system. And then anything over that starts charging us. So my staff has been trying to, as quickly as we can, obviously we obtain it, discover it to defense. Once the case closed, we're manually pulling that out and putting that into a separate storage system. We're also spending a lot of time with editing and redacting. There's a lot of things that law enforcement do or conversations that are had that may not be admissible at trial. So we have to edit those things. The last trial I just had, the officer had a piece of paper from DHS that was in front of the body camera that we had to put a big box over, and figuring out, you would think that would be easier. But figuring out like the size of the box and where does the thing move and all of that is actually more complicated than it seems. And all that takes time to upload it, to get it to redact, to then discover it, to make sure it's correct. And you could be redoing a trial and get a mistrial if you inadvertently leave something in that shouldn't be. So evidence.com should significantly help that. It can help transcription, all of those kinds of things. So we'll be implementing that system. It's hopefully going to alleviate and save some human time, but also be able to, because it's unlimited storage, be able to have more predictable costs for us with, because currently we go over our free storage allotment. So working with the IT department in that process. So we continue to work on payment of discovery fees. The county sets the fee structure for discovery and all of that. We bill directly to our local public defense through OPDC, Oregon Public Defense Commission, I think is what the alphabet soup is. Private Defense Counsel has not been paying for their discovery fees. It's been an ongoing issue. Tried to get a legislative fix last year. That didn't go through. So we've been trying to work with making sure that we get both correct billing going out and that people are all being billed under the current structure, the current fee structure. And we addressed that because there was some that were being billed less. So they weren't all, we weren't recovering the actual cost. So there's some debate statewide, I guess, about that, about whether or not discovery should be free or not. Really what it comes down to is the public defense, and the state has designated a lot of money towards public defense to pay for that discovery. That pays for my staff's time creating it, obtaining it, producing it, bait stamping it, tracking it in our system, the software system that we pay for. If in one of the discussions is if the state doesn't want to address and have that payment, then reimburse the counties for the cost to the county for producing it. If they don't want us to be billing out for that, then the state needs to designate the money they're giving public defense entities directly to the counties to offset that cost. So currently defense is getting money for discovery and for public defense costs. And even private defense can ask OPDC for money for certain things that they want to do. Say they want to have a psychosexual evaluation. Those are about $1,000 or more. They'll go get money from the state to cover that and get reimbursed for that. So it really is just a movement of the money. Right now, they're getting money for a lot of these costs. They're not reimbursing the counties for it. And so that's been kind of an ongoing issue. I've worked with Will last year. We sent some for consideration of, do we want to take some of these to collections? We had a couple of really big ticket costs that about $18,000, $17,000 that hadn't been reimbursed. I was ultimately able to work and get reimbursed for those costs throughout as the case was moving. So that's an ongoing issue. Evidence.com, been working with IT and kind of figuring out the implementation of that and some of the costs that currently are paid through in-service fees for some of our software systems. We'll have a cost internally in our office, but we are working on kind of that piece. Obviously, expungement laws. So as the legislature continues to expand expunction, they don't fund that. So when expungement, when they say something's automatic, there's nothing in the legal system that's automatic. It all takes a human being to do it. So oftentimes that shifts to my office to make sure that the people are eligible. We then have to send notice to the law enforcement agencies to basically delete and seal all of those records from the system. So we have to manually go into our system, delete it from all of the places that the criminal history shows. Sometimes it's weird where you might have one count, somebody is charged with 5 counts. One count is eligible for expunction, but the other ones aren't. So then you have to go in and redact out the parts that reference to the other count. So all of that is manually done by humans. We continue to expand expungement, the state does. And so that creates processing. We have to send notice to the victims. We have to process to see if they're eligible. Then if they are, we have to then go delete it. We have to notify law enforcement to delete from their systems. So that's kind of an ever-growing demand. There are some law offices that's really all they do now is send out expungements to everybody. The mental health and drug related crimes, I mean, I think we can all open up the news and see the results of that. We continue to work to reduce the impacts of that, require people to engage in treatment, work within the tools that we have, that the legislature has given us with the implementation of 4002. It's still kind of herky jerky of getting people quickly into treatment, and all of the barriers and hoops that were built into that law. And I think in the next legislative session, we're probably going to see it become more difficult. Recently, we had a massive amendment to our mental health laws and the access. What I am seeing on boots on the ground is, until there is a serious crime that occurs, we can't get people to the state hospital, and we don't have any sort of inpatient facility. And many times the people who are experiencing that chronic mental health, very often intertangled with drug use, they're not voluntarily going into treatment for rehabilitation. And so those cases are just getting dismissed without any ability to get the case started, to hold them accountable, get them into treatment. So that's one of my concerns. I think I have a number of homicide cases that have happened while I've been in office, have a number that are pending now. All of them are mental health or drug related. So, and we're seeing in our neighboring counties the same violent crime, significant mental health and drug use related crime issues are increasing dramatically. Our caseloads continue to go up. So we obviously are, trying to triage a lot of what many counties let go are really the quality of life crimes. Those are a focus of mine. I think it's important to remember that we all like this community for a reason. So let's keep it as safe and as livable as possible. So figuring out how to address the increasing crime, deal with the major offenses, but not forgetting about the other offenses that make the community livable. So we still have the one vacant position. Staffing really is the biggest issue. We had somebody who was sick this last week. I was tied up with a trial, and that left not enough people in my office to cover all the places that we need to go. So we never know what new emergency is going to happen at the last minute. And so, we plan our weeks the best that we can, but making sure that we have enough people who can handle in the office, who can handle everything that's coming at us is really critical. And then the next slide, our budget. So I have been working on obtaining some grant funding. I did secure $50,000 for a 2 fiscal year grant under the child abuse grant to support the DA investigator spot. So that's $25,000 each fiscal year. That's right?
I think so.
Good job. And then also utilizing to make sure that we are maximizing the justice reinvestment. JRP grant, justice reinvestment. I don't remember what the P stands for. Anyway, that's through Aaron Boyce with parole and probation. So we have $70,000 that we get out of that grant. And then obviously maximizing the VOCA grant. I came to the commissioners with hey, looks like we're not getting this VOCA grant. We need to, utilize every ability that we have to push our legislator to make sure to fund this. And then ultimately we had budgeted only 80% of that VOCA funding. And then it looked like we were going to get like 20 or 30% of it. We actually ended up with 100% of what we've had each year. So that was fabulous. So part of the reason you're seeing the spend less is the ability to get some of that grant funding. Also, part of it is just vacancies and positions. The DA investigator didn't start obviously on the first year of our fiscal year. So we're doing pretty well. I think we're on a really good trajectory. We obviously have hurdles that are coming up. as far as just dealing with increasing crime and how to maximize things, but I feel pretty positive about the direction that we are headed. I was supposed to talk for 5 to 7 minutes and I just talked for 20, I think. Questions? I answered them all.
Well done.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You have to stand too, because you'll talk faster.
Next up, we have the sheriff's office, Bill Elliott, the undersheriff, is here. For the sheriff.
Well, the sheriff's back there.
You're looking like you're ready to present, so.
So key priorities and goal alignment. Our main goal is to maintain staffing stability across core public safety services, which we'll get into a little bit more. Sustain core services, public safety operations, also while absorbing the growth of the community. And then invest in readiness equipment and long-term resilience. So what we've done in the first 6 months of the fiscal year for patrol, we upfitted 1 patrol vehicle so far in the first 6 months. We have 1 left to do. We've installed 7 mobile repeaters in the car, so our guys, actually it's a little safer for them, so they can actually get out on their portable radio through their car to the repeater so that they can communicate effectively with dispatch. Jail, we've hired 3 new staff in the jail, and I'll talk a little more about that in a little bit. We secured a 2-year CJC MAT grant, which CJC is the Criminal Justice Commission through the state, and MAT is medical assisted treatment. So what we're now offering is for, like Carrie had talked about, the folks addicted to substance use now have some more ability to be treated while they're incarcerated in the facility. Expanded in PMP, they expanded in-house programming. I don't know what MRT is, but they have 8 clients in that. Do you know what MRT is?
Yes, isn't that deflection?
Okay, so leads. It's the state deflection to get the low-level drug users into a voluntary program to hopefully help them get into treatment, so then they can get off of drugs. Emergency management, there's alphabet soup. Like Carrie's talking about alphabet soup, there's a lot of it. So CWPP is the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, NHMP is the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, and the EOP is the Emergency Operations Plan. AJ has got all of those updated so that we are within, so we can, if something were to happen, we can now get FEMA money. And those types of things, and they were all done ahead of schedule. Support staff, we've trained the support staff here because warrants used to be held in the support office. Now they're held in the jail, and jail staff are now housing warrants, which is actually pretty common across the state. Currently in progress, Axon camera update. Carrie talked a little bit about that. Axon's probably the leading body camera and fleet camera system in the country. We are in the process of moving that direction. Starting tomorrow is our kickoff for body cameras. And the Axon move, we were able to save quite a little bit of money in the Axon move because the cameras that we currently have, GTAC cameras, are no longer supported as of January 1. So the city and us put our heads together and said, okay, because we're all in one system, put our heads together and said, okay, we can't spend the money twice. So we're going to do it once. And if this is what we're going to do, let's do it now. And we did. It actually, I'm pretty excited about it. Carrie talked about redaction and those things. The redaction system in Axon is far easier to use. It'll take less staff time. It will keep our records gal extremely happy with the number of public records requests that we get that we have to redact. So I think that is a good move. We're gonna upfit the one vehicle that we have left. And then install repeaters in all of the patrol cars. I think that's a safety issue in order to be able to get out on the radio. And then recruit for the vacancies that we have. Jail sergeant promotions currently underway. I have actually sergeant interviews this afternoon for one of the final steps. One corrections deputy is currently in background. We have 2 on a hiring list. So we're getting those spots filled. But again, it takes time, right? I've said it over and over. It takes time for us to get folks up and running. Leads program, which is how I typically see that, is ongoing, and we're funded through 27 through July of 27. So that's good. We haven't had any successful graduations from that, but there are some folks that keep trying to get into the program, so that's good. MICP is the Mobile Incident Command Post. It's a giant Class A motorhome bus that we got for free from OSU is who had it. And Mitch and AJ have been working pretty hard and pretty diligently to get that up and running so that we have so that we can use it out in the field. But it's 75% complete, and it'll be done June of this year. Search and Rescue was able to get an F-350 acquired, and it's currently getting upfitted now. Of course, through all divisions, Cortico is a health and wellness app that's on your phone. And so we're in the process of getting that going to increase morale and retention. Happening before June 30, Mitch has been working pretty diligently to get some fleet software program. We had one that is no longer being supported. So we're trying to get something that is going to get the most bang for our buck with it, so that we can do all asset management. So we can do, because we have a lot of equipment other than just cars. I mean, we have guns, we have all kinds of other things that need to do that. And Mitch has been working diligently to get that. Now, the company that he did go through, or that he started talking to last week, has said, hey, we can do this, but we can't do this. So we want to get on board with the other asset management other than just fleet. So I think he's in the process of jumping on board with them and then helping them develop the program so we can get it even cheaper, since we're going to help them develop the program. And then next month we have a 2-week, well, we don't, Carrie does, has a 2-week murder trial with multiple defendants in this that are still incarcerated. It's going to be a heavy lift for staffing wise for our jail. It's going to be pretty significant. Emergency management, there's a ground search manager school coming up this spring. So AJ's doing a pretty good job of kind of restructuring what search and rescue looks like, so that we can be more efficient there as well. Next fiscal, we need to restore some supervision in the patrol division. At the sergeant rank, we've been running short of sergeant for quite some time. We need to replace the AEDs that I think we got for free from Delta. Delta Airlines gave us a bunch of AEDs to start with, enough for every car. And we need to look at, and that was years ago. So we need to look at replacing those. 40 millimeter. The 40 millimeter is actually kind of interesting because it's just another tool in the toolbox. You shoot these foam rubber bullets out of them. It's a less lethal tool, but very effective. We have other resources too, right? We have pepper spray, we have taser, we have pepper ball, and those things. But the 40 millimeter, we had one incident on 9th Street where we were helping the city, and neither one of the agencies have a 40. And really that was would have been the only effective tool to use in that situation, and we don't have one. The cost of them is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's insignificant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty minimal. But training on those are expensive. Those rounds are very expensive to purchase. The next thing is what I'd like to see our drone program. And I was actually just talking to a guy that another agency that has a pretty significant drone program, but getting to, they're called Avata drones. They're little, they're about this big. We can fly them indoors pretty easy, which is going to reduce officer safety issues. It's going to hopefully reduce some workman's comp claims, some of those things, just by using a piece of equipment that doesn't cost as much as human. And then fill vacancies in patrol. Jail is going to continue building staffing levels to teams of 5. That's kind of where we need to be now as kind of a minimum baseline. So we need to start working towards that. Add Axon cameras so that, because as it stands right now, all of the patrol guys are issued body cameras. There's only 3 of them in the jail. And so if you need it, you got to go get it, put it on and go, and then you can use it. So we need to probably think about and move forward on making sure that everybody has access to cameras. It's going to reduce liability for us and the county. PMP, they didn't get good news last time on their funding. Their funding's getting cut a little bit. So we may have to, if we want to maintain current services in the community, we may have to look at adjusting some funds. Challenges for core services, court security. So as it stands, we have 1 court security deputy. He manages the front. You guys all saw him this morning when he came in. And so to cover breaks and those types of things, patrol guys are breaking down and not able to go on patrol. They have to go cover breaks, lunches, and those types of things for that. Hiring delay. We did delay hiring just because of the forecasted budget in 27 or 28. That's affecting us. That's very challenging. Turnover is obviously challenging. People are leaving different reasons. Jail staffing coverage. We did. So not only have we not had 24-hour staffing for quite some time, but the jail staffing got bad enough where we actually had to break down patrol teams and send them into the jail to cover because we have to keep the jail going. Those are the patrol impacts, PMP impacts, reduced funding in 26. I don't remember what that exactly is, but I do know that it's going to probably affect some services. Support staff, since we moved down here, the jail front lobby still needs to be open. We didn't get any additional FTEs with that. So trying to cover 2 locations and keep both sets of doors open is extremely challenging for the front office staff. So we are going to request to fill the FTEs. We're currently in the process of that now. And then we will have future increases in FTE counts just to keep up. So some of the things that I wanted to mention, since Carrie threw stats up there, I had to get some of ours. So we had a 4% increase in reports written over 2025. We did 2,363 reports in 2025. And that spans across 12 deputies. And then total arrests for the sheriff's office, they were down 33%, arrested 328 people in 2025. Jail stats, 5% decrease in total bookings, which is county, city, and OSP, with 1,088 people booked into jail last year. Calls for service were down by about 900. We took 15,840 calls for service in 2025. And that's a 5% decrease. And then the Justice Center stats, just 37,016 people came into the Justice Center in 2025. That's how many people Jeremy scanned coming in. So the budget piece, Next, we spent 45% of the budget so far at the sheriff's office and 39% at PMP. Any questions?
I have one. And one note also, I appreciate the metrics, so thank you for bringing in the 2025 numbers, even though it was in the deck. It is good to understand where we're at on a volume perspective for the county. But the question I have is maybe actually based more toward Will. In general, as it relates to asset management, I know it's important obviously to do asset management both on a fleet level, but also on just an asset level as you talk about guns and technology. But that feels like it's actually an IT expense instead of an individual department expense. Have we looked at just a general asset management program for the county that all departments can potentially use or leverage?
I haven't gotten as far as looking at a specific program. We are currently kind of working on a fleet management policy to help our departments that have, you know, numerous vehicles. We don't have a real formal policy, and it's kind of department by department at this point. So working on formalizing that, so we have some expectation standards in fleet management. I would envision correspondingly looking at some asset management programs for that. And I would agree. I think that would be either an IT or a new internal service fee of some sort for those departments that have fleets. I'd like to explore with the sheriff's office what they're looking at that in case there's an opportunity be more time-wide.
Yeah.
Kind of a follow-up question to that. You know, I assume obviously your asset management needs are significantly differentiated than a lot of the other departments in the city. You talked about, you know, sharing some interesting stuff with the city of Ferndale. I'm assuming they're using an asset management program. I'm assuming a lot of other nearby departments are utilizing this already. Have you explored partnering or using the same things the city's using for asset management?
I'll let Mitch talk about it.
So, just to touch a little bit more on the asset and fleet management. So far I've looked at 5 different companies with the overall goal of what's going to work best for the sheriff's office. But thanks to Christina putting the kind of word in my ear that maybe this is something the rest of the county can look into. So I'm keeping the rest of the county departments in mind when looking at these programs. What I have found is that a lot of agencies are just using Excel, and it takes a lot of time to enter that data and also to get this to talk to this, and I am not great with Microsoft Excel. So being able to link equipment from a vehicle to a deputy and vice versa, there's 2 programs I'm looking at that are also looking at or they also include forecasting for when this vehicle should probably be end of life and you should start budgeting for something new. And that's also going towards other equipment that's issued to deputies. So I'm keeping a wide view of the entire county, but starting with the sheriff's office first, and then hopefully whatever I look at might work for the rest of the county.
Whether it's an overlay on Excel or any other big software, what I was really getting at is why reinvent the wheel here? What's the county using? What's another county using that's similar? What's the city using? I mean,
what I found is it depends on the needs and what the county or what the other counties want to document. Douglas County, for instance, they have an in-house program that was designed by a former deputy who was well versed in computer programming and designing applications. That's not my wheelhouse, and they're not willing to share that. So it just depends on what agency, and some programs can cost upwards of $12,000 a year, whereas the one that I'm looking at right now, we're looking at $3,000 a year.
And that one is the same one the cities.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have feedback from our part. Make sure that, yeah, we can pick something, but if they're using something they hate, we obviously don't want them to.
let them be the practice.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill.
Yes, thanks for the statistic.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so we did have a break scheduled for right now. I think those who've been drinking coffee may appreciate the break. Instead of the full 10 minutes, can we do it in 5? Do you think? Come back at 9:45? Does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
I think we're ready to start rolling again. Next up, we have Christina Heron, our finance director. She'll be providing a mid-year presentation for.
Wrap it up. There you go.
That one's good.
All right, look, we're just gonna start off with our key priorities and goal alignment for the finance department. Our number one priority is to finish our ERP implementation and the subsequent departmental training that's gonna go along with that. This has been a monumental task that IT has been gracious enough to help us with, so that will be a huge check mark when we get that done. Along with that, we're revising our monthly and quarterly reporting to be more user friendly and provide some greater insight for end users. And then we're looking to update and document our internal controls, policies, and procedures for our new ERP. We're basically redoing everything from the bottom up to ensure good internal controls and create automation and ease of use as we move forward. The way those fit in with the commissioner's goals, sorry, is number one fits our goals of outstanding service, collaborative culture, financial sustainability, and improving communication. Number two also fits those goals, and then 3 fits those goals, as well as improving the safety and livability of the county. The projects that we've completed as planned so far have been our monthly budget to actual indicator reports that Jamie has revamped and relaunched for departments. This has been, we've received feedback for those. They're really helpful in helping departments decode where their financial standing is every month. So those have been great to get out. We received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award again, and then we updated our investment mix for the county policy and liquidity targets to make sure we're taking advantage of investments and greater returns where we can. Items that are currently in process are the core finance portion of ERP implementation. We're expecting that to be completed late fiscal year 26. The payroll portion of the ERP implementation, we hope to have finished by mid fiscal year 27. The reason that was taking a little bit longer is because of the timing. We want to implement that at the beginning of the calendar year with payroll. So we don't have payroll in 2 systems for reporting. We are completing that reporting revamp of our monthly and quarterly reports in mid to late fiscal year 26. And then our fiscal year 25 audit and financial statement preparation was pushed back a little further than we would hope through the Fed shutdown and them not releasing the single audit requirements in time for us to finish our audit. But we do expect that to be finished by the middle to end of January. Starting before June 30th, this is our fiscal year 27 budget process, and then the rewrite of our internal controls, policies, and procedures for the new ERP system, as well as compliance with the new governmental accounting standards board procedures that are coming out. Next fiscal year, we will start training departments on the new ERP. We'll dig into some cash flow and revenue analysis for departments with that are priorities and that are experiencing uncertainty in their revenues and potentially increasing expenditures. We can get a better idea of where we can create efficiencies or find other revenue opportunities in these departments. And then we have a whole host of new governmental accounting standards that are coming down the pike that includes complete rewrites of the information that's included in our financial statements, as well as how we record some of our liabilities. So we'll be working through those and implementation of those as well. Some of the challenges that are impacting our core services is staffing. We do have one open position that has remained open. And we've been able to accomplish getting our ERP implemented with that. So I'm proud of being able to do that. So while it is a challenge, we are working through that challenge. Budget and funding constraints are always a challenge. And then compliance with the new gathering pronouncements. The one that's going to probably be the biggest technical challenge is we're going to be required to produce machine readable financial statements, similar to how publicly traded entities are right now. So XBRL is going to become a thing for us. Luckily, we're adopting it later, but it's going to be a challenge to make sure we comply with that standard along with the other ones that are being released. For budget, we are pretty much right on track. You'll notice that our revenue seems quite lower than it would be. That's because our internal service fees are not reported directly in the finance department. They're just reported in the general fund. So the other revenue that we're expecting, we're on track for about 46%. And then we've spent about 45% of our budget. And that does include the ERP implementation. Questions?
I have a question about the ERP implementation. You talked about all the work you've done internally so far to get that up to speed. Specifically the core finance portion now done and everything, and yet you're talking about next year training other departments on ERP. Is there any overlap of time period where you're having to run two different systems, their old one and the new one, and what challenges does that bring?
Yes, we will have several months of the two systems working together just to confirm that they're both posting things. The new one is posting things appropriately. So we're probably gonna have about 3 months of overlap. Luckily, we don't have to pay for the old one while we have that overlap. We haven't paid for the old one while we have the new one going on, which is one of the benefits of upgrading with the current vendor. So that will give us the time to kind of work out the kinks on our end and make sure that what we're training people on doesn't have bugs. Because that's one of the most annoying things is trying to learn something and then you realize it's not working the way it's.
And when you project out to the other departments, saying that their training is going to be occurring in fiscal 27, is it your expectation that that won't drag this out a lot longer than that 3 months dual process thing? Or?
Yep, so we'll have the dual process. We're intending to go live with our ERP in March. So we'll have those 3 months to the end of the fiscal year, and then at the beginning of the new fiscal year, we will start bringing the new departments on the new system. And it's pretty locked down compared to what they can access on our new one, a little more user friendly. So I'm not anticipating a huge learning curve. I think more of it's going to be learning how to customize the reports they want for the things they want to see, and the fun stuff.
But that's all stuff you guys do that.
So it's got a report system built into it called Cognos. So they're actually able to create click, drag, drop, click, drag.
CDD, yeah.
I can't remember the
Click,
final
drill.
is. Click, drag, drill. So it has the ability for them to create reports in it as well. So if there's something that we have this, I think there's 140 baked in reports that you can use, but if there's not a report that you need, you have the ability to kind of decide what information you want to see, and then it saves it for you on the dashboard. So I can create reports that's standard for a department head, and then they all have access to that. But they can also build their own dashboard if they want to get into the nitty-gritty things and pull different data, or if they want to track certain things for their department. And then their access is only for their numbers, so they're not trying to sort through and wade through a bunch of different sets.
Thanks.
Hopefully that answers.
This is a simplistic answer, but on property tax collection, are we behind the same like we usually are? How is that going?
We are pretty much in line with where we usually are.
Okay.
As far as the last number, so to be through the end of November.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Oh, there you go. Don't touch it.
Would you like some help with?
I will. Very good. Alright, you'll be over here, Eric.
Does the microphone work on it?
The microphone on that is working. Yeah.
Alrighty, next up, county council's office, Eric Lane.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Eric. I am the county's legal counsel. Good morning, and we should start. So I won't simply just read our slides to you, but here are our key priorities. A lot of what our county office needs to do is be reactive. There'll be changes in the law, there'll be projects that come up. Just as an example, we get a subpoena for a county office, and that means we probably need to reprioritize our existing tasks and be reactive to that. We try very hard, however, to be proactive to the extent that we are able to get ahead of projects and problems before they arise. The commissioners have heard me say this several times, but there is no one in the county who's more fortunate in his coworkers than I am. And I am very grateful for all the work that they do to help us keep first reactive and then proactive as much as we have been. So a number of the projects that we have completed that we were anticipating, we have finished our labor bargaining for our road department union. As many of you know, that is a lengthy process. I will say I personally learned a great deal about future labor bargaining from this experience, which I have to use in the next iteration. We have completed our public contracting training. That was something that commissioners were interested in hosting. Tell departments how you go about buying the things that you need to buy. There are a lot of traps for the unwary, but fortunately these processes actually do have a number of different very useful efficiencies that we like to promote to those departments. Non-preference towing rotation is a service that the sheriff's office finds very useful. The idea is that there is a process by which towing companies can be contacted when the sheriff's office needs to have an item towed. Sometimes that means just getting it out of the place where it is, and sometimes that means securing it for the purpose of evidence. There are some administrative rules that are very tricky in how that program needs to be implemented. And so for the first time in a number of years, we've published a request for proposal. We got a number of responses, and then finally executed a contract for the first time in a number of years. And I can't take any credit for this, but my colleague, Brian in our office, no longer there, did yeoman's effort trying to update our process for real property tax foreclosure sales. The state legislature and the Supreme Court of the United States, in their wisdom, have imposed some new requirements on Oregon counties, and this was an effort to try to map what it is we need to do with what we will actually be doing. So currently in process, let me start with the second bullet point there, ongoing file review of active county projects. Something that our office does every time there's a project across our desk is we open a file for it. And then even when the project is completed but not yet terminated, we will calendar that file for a periodic review. Part of what that will do is refresh our memory as to what is going on, and provide a second pair of eyes to say, remind different departments of forthcoming obligations or deadlines. Like for instance, say, sheriff's office, you have this contract, it's not going to expire this year, but will expire next year, and then confer with them about how that project is going. And so that is something that we do continuously. A number of projects that we've had a number of recent updates. The CMHP, talk about alphabet soup, is Community Mental Health Program funding. We have just received that contract from the state That was probably 6 months of negotiations between the counties and the state. So I'm hoping that that will be crossed off our list very soon. There at the bottom, the FFE, that's furniture, fixture, and equipment transfer agreements with the Oregon Department of Justice. That has to do for all of the furniture here in the Justice Center. We received a new draft of that transfer agreement just late last week, and I'm hoping we'll be able to move that one forward too. So you notice a sort of theme on this, aside from the second bullet point, is that these are projects with either a lot of moving parts or a big dollar value. Purchasing dump trucks for the road department, we sort of think that might be $1.3 million, give or take. So a lot of these projects are quite significant for the county. Some projects that we're working on and hoping to conclude before the end of the fiscal year. Near to my heart is to adopt a new kind of project ticketing system for county departments. Right now, we don't have a uniform system by which county departments or county stakeholders can ask our office to do something. So sometimes that means a phone call, sometimes that means an email message, sometimes that means a meeting, sometimes that means something else. I'm hoping to find a uniform ticketing system, something like what the IT department does when they need a call for service. Departments will fill in, my goal is to have an electronic system. They fill in a number of fields, they send that out, and then our office will be able to track that going forward. I think that's going to be a big help in sort of the behind the scenes administrative functions of our office, just to be more efficient. Something that I've been hoping to accomplish for a while and just haven't been able to make the time for is an update to our identity theft prevention processes. It's been a long time since the county has done any kind of staff training on this. The idea is, of course, county personnel have a lot of personal information about private citizens. Some of it is confidential, some of it is not confidential. And is there a way that we can thread that needle such that we can help prevent identity theft of private citizens while also complying with our obligations under public disclosure laws? We would like to do some additional staff training. Also near and dear to my heart is to train staff members on how to use the track changes function in Word. A number of times our office will spend an amount of time trying to interpret what we are told a document should read, typing it up, sending it out to the departments. The department says, no, that's not quite it. Here's kind of what I'm thinking, back and forth and back and forth. That's not an efficient use of anyone's time. And I'm hoping that if we can do a training on how to use track changes, the departments can simply say, here is what I'd like it to read. They send it to us, we'll review it. If we have any suggestions, we'll go back. But that I think will be a lot of help to the individual departments themselves. They don't have that interactive process. And it would be a big efficiency for us. And then the county's outdoor burning code. I'd like to update that because this last year we had a sort of strange situation. The idea of the burning code is there are times when people should not be burning on their property because that may present a wildfire danger, or they are burning on the property in such a way that presents a wildfire danger. We had a situation this summer where someone was burning and should not have been burning, and yet nothing in our code actually corresponded to what he was doing. So we ultimately had to dismiss that case because we just said we can't prove it. And there are a number of different things he could have been doing wrong, but he wasn't fitting any of those definitions. So that is a goal I hope to achieve before this fire season. For next year, I anticipate that there are going to be a lot of election law questions. And election law in Oregon is a sort of strange hybrid. Some questions are very clear, for which there is some very definite answers, and a lot of it is not as definite as one might think. And I don't want to necessarily criticize anyone for that, because for years, those questions just weren't asked. But I anticipate that this next November, there are going to be a number of different challenges, questions, demands. Prove to me that circumstance XYZ did not happen. And so in order to prepare, I'm hoping to fill my brain with knowledge beforehand. And then a number of public meeting disputes have arisen in the last year, which are affecting county offices. Those are taking up a great deal of staff time. There is a sort of formalized response process, which we have complied with, and I anticipate that that's going to be a continuing drain on staff resources. I'm pleased to say that none of these complaints have ever advanced beyond the complaint stage. I think a number of them were just without merit, but nevertheless, they require a response. Some challenges, unfortunately, our office has a vacancy, and I mentioned my colleague Brian, and he has now transferred over to be the county council at Tillamook County. He was a great colleague, and I miss him. So we are now down to 2 people in our office, Alex, our office manager, and me, to try to address that current vacancy. We've reached out to a number of different firms on discrete projects to see if we can farm those out. And we've had a surprising difficulty in trying to find outside firms that are capable and interested in taking on these projects. It's not simply a matter of just calling the law firm and say, hey, you want some money? I have a project for you. They have to, for instance, do what they call conflicts check, where they consider who it is that this project would likely involve interacting with, then determine how that interaction might be. Is it, for instance, a case where they will bargain one side against another? And then if there is the potential of a conflict of interest, they may say this is just not worth it, or the county may say this is not worth it, and that is indeed something that has happened with at least one project that we're working on. So hopefully now 2 of the big projects on our plates we have successfully farmed out, and I'm optimistic that those will be completed soon. But that has been a challenge, finding interested firms who are capable of taking on these discrete projects. For staff changes, at some juncture, I would like to fill the vacant assistant county council position. I understand that the county is not overly endowed with spare cash lying around, and so that may not be in the immediate future, but I'll just put a bug in your ear. At some juncture, I would like to get back up to being public staff. As far as our budget, the vast majority of our office budget comes from internal service fees. We have a small portion that we get for, say, public records requests, but as you see, that's quite small. It's a rounding error. Good news is I think we've been quite frugal in what we've spent our funds on, and I'm optimistic that that number, 46%, will be about that, but not exceeded by the end of the fiscal year. And with that, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do. Back on the currently in process slide, there were 2 items I was just curious if you might be able to provide more color or specificity to. One was review of solar project decommissioning plan.
Mm-hmm.
The second was review of long-term rental agreement for fairgrounds.
Yeah, let me start with that second one. So that is in reference to the Crooked River Roundup Rodeo and horse races. As you know, they have made use of the county fairgrounds for many years, and there has been a multi-year use agreement with the Roundup Association. Last year, there was some bargaining up until I think 2 or 3 days before the first day of the rodeo. And I anticipate that getting a new long-term agreement satisfactory to the county and the association might require some staff time. So that's what the second one is. The first one refers to a requirement that the county imposes in its solar development project, where at the end of a solar project, when it's no longer being used for that purpose, the applicant is required to remediate the implements that they put onto the property, and to ensure that that work gets done, even if the company goes out of business or goes bankrupt, we require some form of security. Our medical preference is a bond, but it could be a letter of credit, could potentially be a cash deposit. The idea there is that if the company just says we're not doing it, they go out of business, they go bankrupt, there is a third party with funds that the county can go to and say, okay, you have to either pay us that money and then we will clean up this property, or you can clean up the property yourself. Solar companies, as you might imagine, have certain interest in what those decommissioning plans and the conditions under which a security might be claimed. Those interests do not necessarily align with the county, and so we have a number of different solar developments that are at the stage in which these are required, and those are taking up a great deal of staff time, bargaining, negotiating, reviewing the terms of, I think it's chapter 18.161 of the county's code, all of which can be done. They just need to be done.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Can you elaborate a little bit more? You made the reference to involvement with new public meeting disputes. Can you provide a little more context around that statement?
Yes. So for many years, if someone feels that a public body has not complied with the public meetings law, there was a process by which they could file a lawsuit and take that public body to court. Now, that was dissatisfactory to a number of people who want to complain about public bodies, but didn't want to actually go through the steps of filing a lawsuit. Like, for instance, they could not show that they were actually harmed, even if what they say happened actually happened. So judges did not like these lawsuits. The public bodies, of course, tried very hard to comply with the law, but sometimes they made mistakes. So in the relatively recent past, I want to say 2019, thereabouts, the legislature enacted a new statute. It's 192-705, which creates a process by which someone can complain about a alleged violation of a public meeting law, not necessarily show that they were harmed by that violation. And the law requires the public body to file a response. That response then goes to not to a court, but to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, which could decide if it wants to investigate the public body for the allegations of wrongdoing. The county, and as I understand it, very many other local public bodies here in Crook County have seen a dramatic increase in these type of complaints. The time frame for responding to these type of complaints is 21 days. It's 21 calendar days. In Crook County's case, that has usually not been a problem, but in a variety of other county committees, particularly volunteer committees, that has been an issue because they don't meet within that 21-day period unless required a special meeting. So I anticipate that is going to continue to be a large portion of our staff time going forward. One of the issues, of course, is we don't know when these complaints are going to be filed against us. And so we need to be reactive in that.
So has that generated change in how we've conducted public meetings in Crook County?
Yeah. Yes. And not just with the county, but with volunteer boards, and not just with volunteer boards of the county itself, but with a variety of other public entities here in Central Oregon.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, sir.
Next up is Human Resources, Megan McKee is there. She's our Human Resources Director.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so we are still in a full implementation mode of our new HRIS system. And what we're looking to do is we are going to be going from paper time cards to electronic time cards. So everything will be inside the HRIS. So that's where payroll comes in. Be working with them to complete reporting, to ensure they're getting what they need to put it into their new ERP system. Updating training and development process right now, starting in January, we rolled out, instead of doing annual training on everyone's anniversary date, it's every January. So we rolled that out. It's been low participation rates. I'm going to be working on that. January, February, and March. It'll be ending the end of March. My goal is to get 100% participation. So even close to that will be higher than what we have right now. And I've also changed a few of the onboarding trainings, small little trainings, 9 minutes, 14 minutes, but additional training for all new employees. And we're currently rewriting the handbook, which is an undertaking in itself. It hasn't been rewritten in a while. That will go to Will. Will help us probably pare it down a little bit. That will go to the commissioners for review. And then it will be rolled out to the unions because they have 14 days to review it as well. So last year, one of the goals was to establish an exit interview process. So we have been working on that. And if HR is alerted to somebody leaving, we will either contact the hiring manager and or the employee and set up an exit interview with them. We also have begun rewriting, restructuring, and centralizing job descriptions so that they all look similar. And we're still in the process of that. HR owns all of the job descriptions. They will be held and stored within our new HRIS system. That way, when we go to recruit and post a job, anyone can do it. Anyone who has access to that can actually post and ask HR to post a job. The job description that has been approved will be inside the system. So there will be no changes. It will be the same each and every time. And if somebody has, somebody has a job, change to a job description, we have a form in HR. They let us know what they want to change. We will go through, take a look at it. If it does not affect the salary, then we will go ahead and make that change, upload that into our HRIS system. If it looks like, say, like a education requirement, if it looks like it's going to change the salary, we will then take it to the compensation review committee, and we will look at it together. And then adjust. We'll ask Will to approve the new salary. And then once it's approved, we'll upload that into our HRIS system as well. One dot on this is a lot. So the HRIS system touches every single department, every single employee in every single way. It's a self-service portal, which we are still working on. Everyone can log in. They'll be able to see everything about themselves from the hiring to the current process and their current status. We have we have benefits starting during the open enrollment of this year. Benefits will be the open enrollment will be online. You will actually make your choices, and it is connected to the carrier. So we will not be filling out paperwork. We haven't done it yet, so probably a little grace will be needed during that process.
In addition, just keeping everything updated, uploading stuff from the current HRIS into the new HRIS system. It's gonna take probably another good year for us to really be solid in the new HRIS system. So we have a consultant that has been helping implement the HRIS system, and the contract ends at the end of this month, and then I will be the administrator and the person running all of the modules within the system. We will have 2 modules that we're not going to go live with yet. I think I need to wrap my brain around how everything touches each other, and then also working with finance to make sure that we understand the implications of it touching all the other ERP and all the other platforms out there as well. Within the HRIS system, there is a performance review module. Right now, it is a multi-page performance review. We are looking to pare it down so that employees can actually get more of a meaningful review from their managers, and also it will live inside the HRIS system, so they will be able to go back and look at what their goals are for the year and how their goals are matching the county's goals as well. I'm working on that. Budgetary constraints, I think we all feel them. How it affects HR is recruiting and retention. Can you make more money somewhere else? What do we look like in regards to other counties? Benefits, all of those, that really plays a big part in how budgets affect HR. We have 3 positions in HR. 2 are filled, 1 has gone unfilled, so we are going to go ahead and cut that position out of HR for right now. It is unneeded. We don't receive any money from outside. However, we currently, this last budgetary year, we have HR has paid for training for other departments. We had the money. We wanted to make sure the most recent is leadership training. We have enrolled 5 people in leadership training, and we've already paid for that. Any questions?
I know you've had an uphill challenge with taking over this department. I just want to keep going uphill. You're getting, I know you're getting close to the peak. Just keep going. Don't tire on this.
I enjoy a good challenge, so thank you so much.
Good.
I had one kind of question about your uphill challenge here. You mentioned that, obviously you've had some help with an outside consultant on the HRS system, and I heard you say that that consultant's contract expires at the end of this current month.
Correct.
And that you would be taking on all of that.
Correct.
Are you comfortable taking on all of that? Is that gonna expand the time period that you have to spend? And, I mean, what's that gonna throw on you? A lot more than you're currently doing, or?
So I'm lucky enough, I have a really good support staff, but it will add a little to my plate. However, I've been involved in numerous implementations of platforms, so I'm able to look at a pretty high view and figure out what needs to be done right away, what I can put off to later. If I become a little overwhelmed, I might look into throwing a little extra money into the budget for another consultant if I need it. Nothing I haven't done before.
And along that same line, by removing that FTE off your budget, obviously that makes your resources even thinner.
Sure.
So what, if any, services will be impacted to the county by removing that headcount and reallocating your time to the HRIS system?
I wish I could give you a good answer on that. I'm not sure yet. What I do know is Will and I talked about when we remove this FTE, if in fact we need it, I would go back to the commissioners and ask to have that added back if I need it, even part-time. I'm hoping to have the budget for that. I don't see any services being impacted negatively at the moment. Our HRIS system is now, we're using it for recruiting. So it is going out to governmentjobs.com, which we weren't using prior. So we're getting a little more higher level of people applying. So the recruiting, in addition to that, everything is going to be within the system, offer letters, onboarding documentation, everything. So we won't be meeting with the employees as much when they're starting. Everything is housed inside the HRS, so that's going to save us some time as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Blaine Cheney, our IT director.
Morning, Commissioners, Board.
Good morning.
Blaine Cheney, IT here for Crook County. Today, I'm going to lead you through the key priorities and goal alignment for IT. So I think we've heard a theme here from multiple departments. We've seen kind of our IT in action this morning. I'm going to go through some of the underpinnings of that. So currently, we're working on aligning our staff in support of the county's core priorities, core services. That's reflected in some of the deliverables here, the Civic Plus Agenda Builder, which the county manager talked about a little bit earlier today. The website migration, which is coming just a little bit later this winter. So you'll be able to see that, a new enhanced look for Crook County, as well as the PATS to PSO transition. So like many departments, we do love our acronyms. So this was the PATS property system that we partnered with Blaine County. This has come over using the Helion software. So this was a transition that happened. That was a core transition that was necessary. Blaine County was looking to sunset the PATS application. We were successful in transitioning that over. Network redundancy, I'll talk a little bit about that. The landfill network, we're looking at making enhancements out there to the landfill to help them bring them current and bring them forward. And then the DIA assessment, that stands for Direct Internet Access Assessment. So it's a reevaluation of a strategy that the county had roughly 5 years ago to see if we currently need to employ that strategy or if we need to evolve that strategy to meet the county where it is currently. Completed as planned. So here's a small list of items. The agenda builder, we talked about this for the administration office. For the GIS segment, I'll be speaking to it a little bit here with you this morning. This is the ArcGIS Enterprise, the environment migration. So this is part of the natural iteration. About every 3 to 5 years, we go through a major transition with the ArcGIS software, the application that was completed earlier this year. The PATS to PSO transition, I spoke just briefly about that. Gov AI implementation, that is the utilization of chatbots, AI here within the county. So it frames, if you will, puts an envelope around those questions that get asked by county staff, how it gets employed, to where the information doesn't leave the county's instance of that AI. So we're not training the large language models. So it doesn't leave, it doesn't go out, it doesn't perpetuate for other entities to absorb that. So it is a whole system in and of itself that county personnel are able to use and leverage. Crook County Fiber Mapping Project, we were able to map the fiber for the county here earlier this year. So really where this begins to show up is what fiber do we have, the interconnectivity between the buildings. I like to say that if we're doing it right, nobody knows it's there. But when we have overheight vehicles and aerial fiber, and those two things collide, it becomes very exciting. And so this mapping obviously helps us to be able to repair that and restore county services. Network monitoring tools. What this means is this is really our ability to see what's going on. Much throughout the county, the interconnectivity, the dependability on technology, it's a living, breathing thing. Data flows much like blood does through the artery system. So for us, it's our ability to see, are we having bottlenecks? Are we having services that are degraded because of activities? We're able to see trends and able to address those. So that we were able to put that in place this year, and we were excited to do so. The next bullet, the antivirus and intrusion detection software deployment. I don't want to mislead anybody online or anybody in the audience today. This has been in place at the county for some time. This was an augmentation. This was a change of the software that we were using. We were able to capture some savings in dollars within the IT department by changing that software and making a transition. We had a long-term partner that we were going to see about a 30% uplift that they were going to be charging the county. We decided that there were alternatives out there at a more attractive price point that would meet the need. And so we made that change, and that's what this bullet represents. Offsite disaster recovery deployment. So as again, that acronym itself stands for Nutanix Disaster Recovery as a Service. It's a mouthful, and I apologize for that. But what that is that is our data that is stored here domestically within the United States. We're beholden to CJI, the Criminal Justice Information System Standards. So our data can't leave the continental United States. It's housed in a secure location, and it is offsite. So should we have a large-scale cataclysmic event that renders facilities unavailable, uninhabitable, the data for the county still lives, and we're able to restore that. So that was implemented earlier this year by the team. Currently in process, you'll see some dates there. Within our department, we do our best to be able to framework those deliverables. I think our team tends to work best when we're working toward guided dates as opposed to general. So you'll see me represent these in target dates. We're looking to launch the website migration. Civic Plus is our partner. They are our existing partner currently today for our website. We're looking to launch that here in February of this year. The RBAC, or the role-based access control, a little bit later. We're shooting at the April timeframe to implement that. What that is that's going to effectively help us with separation of duties and to also be able to help maintain a span of control here within the county. So we as individuals, we have in some organizations, we have individuals that have the same title. That individual, our goal is to make sure that they have the same level of access so that they can perform the same job duties, so that should an individual transition become unavailable for a myriad of reasons, somebody else with the same title can step in and perform those job tasks, making it easier to cover for each other here at the county. I talked about network redundancy earlier. We are looking to enhance that. I have staff that are actually ahead of schedule on this. They look to implement this later this month. So what this is we are providing dual perimeter firewalls here within the county. So should we have a hardware failure, that'll be transparent, and we will fail over to the secondary device within just a matter of seconds. It's in an active passive mode, which means it sits there, it stands ready and available. But should we have a hardware failure, none would be the wiser here at the county. We'll continue to develop department services as well as communication to the outside world. And then the last bullet point here, the landfill network equipment renovation. We are currently relocating some equipment out at the landfill to help that equipment elongate its life. It's currently in an environment that isn't suited well for technology items. It was a location of convenience at the time. And so we have a better location, and we'll be relocating that here in the February timeframe. As we look toward the end of the fiscal year, there's a couple items on deck for us. Integrating the water utilities here within the city of Prineville into the spatial database engine. So think of this as a massive database that we collect all of our GIS data into. We're working with the city of Prineville. The GIS department interacts with other agencies, OID, the city of Prineville, and provides services to them. This is an extension of some of those services to help map out the water utilities here within the city. I spoke briefly, but we're looking to finalize the public meetings recordings process in support of the county administration office. We are looking to transition the ComDev planning and soils web app. They use a series of small custom built web applications. Those are coming to end of life. And so we're working with John, the director of community development, and his team to refresh those for the community development team to get those current here at the county. Updating the Eagle View imagery layers. So Eagle View is our partner. They take imaging here at the county. So the overhead imaging that we all enjoy in high def, we're able to zoom in or zoom out to the layer that we prefer. We will be conducting, this is that year that we will be updating those images. So they will be flying and conducting those images later this year. And then we look to complete the direct internet access assessment here at the end before June 30th. Planning for next fiscal year as we come into our planning session, our planning season. We are looking to migrate the data center the county currently has over here to the Justice Center facility. That is a purpose-built room. It has the layers of security that are required for us. That room has capacity. It was engineered for capacity. That group that helped bring the data center here to the Justice Center had the foresight to make that space available. And so we're looking to transition and trying to be ready to make that transition next year. The infrastructure design, evaluation, and refresh. We continue this as part of just an ongoing strategy to refresh the infrastructure. I mentioned it. All of the interconnectivity throughout the county, all of those appliances have a natural life cycle. We're looking to evaluate that and make sure that we're aligning it in a refresh cycle that's palatable for the county, that makes sense, to where we're maximizing the benefit to us, but not overextending it and creating vulnerabilities that may be out there. One of the things here also we'll be focusing in on next year is technology proficiency workshops. The rate of technology and the rate of evolution continues to accelerate. And so having workshops that folks are able to absorb that rate of change, understand those things, understand options, I think is going to be a great benefit to county staff. Challenges impacting core services. We continue to see a growing service desk and incident management needs throughout the county. As the dependency on technology becomes greater, we continue, one of the challenges is supporting the expanding system functionality. We're starting to see this. It's going to dovetail into my next bullet point here, and balancing the hardware at the workstation level requirements with emerging technologies. And I put artificial intelligence. We are, many of us have probably had a chance to see, I call it the AI-ification of everything. So we continue to meet and try to meet this challenge. As many of you know or have heard in the news and the media, AI draws a tremendous amount of power from the data centers that use AI and leverage AI. We're starting to see that processing need and that power consumption show up at the end user, at the end point. So our phones, our laptops, things that we use day in and day out. Microsoft, who is our business productivity software that we use here throughout the county, their AI tool is commonly referred to as Copilot. So when we think of that, think of it as constantly listening, constantly wanting to help, whether it be with grammar, whether it be with framework, whether it be reformatting a document, changing bullet points. All of these things create a dependency on that endpoint device that we're using. So we're starting to see that show up, and it begins this race in this cycle that we're trying to find the right balance of AI evolution evolving and hardware trying to keep up with it, to make sure that we aren't in this constant race of playing catch up. So how do we get out in front of that? How do we manage that unexpected growth to where we aren't overextended within the IT department? We do envision next fiscal year, one of the challenges that we'll have is the data center relocation. That is a very specialized type of skill set. It's rare. In my career, I have done 2 in my 30-year career. Personally, I have moved 2 data centers. It is difficult. They require specialists, they require electricians, they require planning. And so we may need to employ contract help to help with that transition next year. Potential staffing requests. I don't want to misrepresent this. The next slide will dovetail into this. We are considering what our options would be if we were to take our current 1 support technician. And so think of this as our break fix individual within the organization. We are looking at adding a secondary individual to help support county functions. So be able to support our infrastructure and operations from our core services. The other side of this is I envision fractional usage from an administrative support standpoint, somebody to be able to help with the infrastructure and operations, project management, proactive contract viewing, not the legal side of that, but to stay out in front of this. What I coming in to the county, one of the first things you do, of course, is evaluate. I know I've poured through a lot of contracts, what's coming up for renewal, what have we been able to leverage, what would we like to leverage, and what do we want to reconsider? So this would be a proactive approach. This is not an FTE. I envision this being a fractional usage of time and not one that's required on a Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to noon. This is work that just needs to get done. So a lot of flexibility in this role to be able to report back data and statistics back to the commissioners, back to boards. Two things here. The budget that you received year to date. Much of that, if not all of that, is from our GIS folks. We have partners in place, agreements. I mentioned a few of our partners, City of Pineville, Oco Irrigation District. This is where a lot of our funding comes from. We do have individuals in the community that do request GIS services from time to time. And so those funds show up here with received year-to-date dollars. Spent year-to-date dollars, 39%. That number is reflective as we've transitioned and positioned the IT department here within the county. So this is a reflective of just a rebalancing of resources and where we're putting those resources and where we need to meet the county to be able to serve the day-to-day needs here of county staff and by proxy, the community as a whole. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
I have one question on the update of the Eagle View flyover.
Yes.
What is the depth of that one going to be? Are we going to solicit funding and work from the federal agencies on this flyover, or is this going to be a lower classification of just the county areas?
It will just be the county areas currently with this iteration.
Okay, thank you. I have a question.
Yeah.
I know there's multiple departments within the county that accept records. PCI is obviously top of mind for all IT departments. And in the couple of years that I've been a part of this process, there's never been a conversation that I can recall that the IT department has discussed with us, either the challenges that are presented in becoming PCI compliant or receiving their report on compliance, or if we even have a report on compliance, or if we have compensating controls in place that we're trying to mitigate in order to accomplish our report on compliance. Could you explain to us where the county is with our PCI compliance and the establishment of the ROC?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. So one of the conversations that myself and finance have had is moving that initiative forward. So we are currently taking a look and evaluating across the county how we take in credit card data, how we secure that. I'm not familiar with each of the departments, and specifically I'm in that collection right now of what policies and compensating controls we may or may not have. We are limited. I'll use an example right now. Landfill is limited. They have very specialized software, which requires very specialized payment intake processing. One of the things that we are looking at is also consolidating I call them the mids and TID, merchant ID and terminal IDs, to become more consistent. Finance and we've had some conversations. They've made a recommendation to us, and we're currently evaluating that right now.
So we don't currently have assigned ROC, report on compliance, for our PCI.
Can you talk to that more specifically from the finance side?
Yeah, so this is kind of something we've been diving into deeper. Some of them, because of the way the data is being collected, we're not responsible for the PCI compliance on them. That's the majority of them. Point and Pay is our main credit card processor, and they're responsible for the PCI compliance as long as we meet the requirements that we don't have to. So such as we're not taking payments over the phone, we're not storing that payment data. So one of the things that has kind of changed and why when I started this conversation is not everybody's using Point and Pay now. We have people using Square or Stripe, and then there's other softwares that unfortunately use some other type of integrated payment processor, like our landfill. We're stuck with one payment processor with them called ValPay. They're responsible for the PCI compliance on that one as well. That was one of the big conversations we had with them when they moved to that one. So we're kind of in that middle process of determining what people are actually doing, because what we thought they were doing isn't necessarily what's actually been happening. We have more payment processors out there than just Point and Pay.
So we're still identifying the scope.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Blaine.
Any other questions?
Great job.
Thanks, Blaine. Thanks, Blaine. Thank you.
Thanks, Blaine. Next up, we have facilities, and we have James Bruce here.
Morning. Morning, James. How are you? Good. Good, thank you. All right. Priorities. Comprehensive assessment of the conditions of all county-owned buildings. Preventative maintenance and service tracking. Establish a training program aimed to enhance the skills and knowledge of our current facility group. Completed as planned, develop emergency evacuation plans and maps for each building. By training on the equipment here at the Justice Center. Replace unsafe sidewalks like at the library and IT building. Establish certain vendors and contractors to support ongoing operations and maintenance here at the county. Replace the generator fuel tank over at the health department. Install heat strips in the gutter. There's no removal at the library. Clean up county-owned property. Recruited for maintenance tech 2 position that we filled this year. Current space requirements, guide county in the moves coming up and having those currently in progress. And we also, another big one I didn't put on here, we upgraded all the camera systems at the jail this year. And that was a big task. Currently in progress, creating maps for emergency utility shutoff for all the county buildings. So we have those. Work order system upgrade. We just recently upgraded our work order system. Better system. We can go mobile with it. We can start doing asset tagging, lifespan of equipment. So it's going to help us out quite a bit. Energy efficient lighting upgrades across the county. We're currently doing the road department. Some of their exterior buildings with LED lights instead of the lights, gives them a lot more, save those energy money. Beginning before January 30th, we're looking at replacing the roof and HVAC system over at that finance and assessors building, long overdue. Establish a training program and enhance the skills and knowledge of the facility group. Enhance the county safety programs and training, comply with standards. Establish an effective fleet management program for the facility vehicles. Planning for next fiscal year, upgrade access control. Enhance safety programs and training comply with standards. Comprehensive assessment of the condition of all county buildings. Establish priorities and create plans along with cost estimates for any necessary building renovation. Address any ADA and other safety code compliance throughout the county. Schedule different maintenance projects based on 10-year plan. Challenges for us are addressing the maintenance on these aging buildings in the county and keeping them up and running. Potential staffing, I just hired a tech 2. We have a really strong workforce now in the group. We have a guy that's going to be retiring this coming year, and we probably will not go ahead and refill that, save cost. We have a good group to do that. Spent year to date 45%. And any questions? I'm there some time.
I had a really hard question for you, James, but you do a good job, so what can I say?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you. Less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was 4.
Okay.
All right, next up, Veteran Services. We have Katie Plum here.
Everyone else said good morning, so maybe I'll mix up. Happy Monday. That it is. So veteran services, well, first of all, I want to just acknowledge that our internal services are critical to my day-to-day. And so like a you guys appreciation for everything that you do to support the work that my programs and teams are able to provide. Our let's see, veteran services. We've worked really hard over the last really fiscal year and a half to increase access to the services that this office provides. Part of that, and that is interrelated, is the outreach that we are able to provide and how effective that outreach is. And then funding is a core component of that in order to do that work. This plan. Really everything is in progress except for that we've been able to put a bow on and onboard a new veteran services officer. That's a big piece of that access, is that we have another person in the office who can file claims, and it doubles our accessibility as far as appointment time. So that's been huge. We are actively at all times seeking additional funding to support this work. We have not secured funding this fiscal year that is in addition to what we've budgeted, but we are actively working on that. We have significantly decreased wait time. We monitor it now. I monitor it, keep a finger on the pulse weekly. But in order to get a more accurate view, we zoom out a little bit and look at monthly and quarterly accessibility as far as when are people able to get in the office for an appointment with a veteran service officer. I have availability this week right now, which has not happened since I've been overseeing this office, and that is hugely in part to the staff that we have. So kudos to them for being out ahead of that and making themselves available to folks that need it. Where we have met and exceeded our veterans claims that are filed annually. We, as of right now, while our target is for the fiscal year's 750, through December 1st, we're at 430. So we will, we're on track to significantly exceed that 750 number. We have met our outreach goal as far as the number of events that we're attending and that we're engaged with. I foresee us being able to expand that goal and make ourselves more visibly engaged in the community as we go into next fiscal year. It's exciting. Part of the ongoing access work is making sure that we are reaching all individuals who are eligible for these services. There are a lot of working veterans that are not able to easily access services during the hours that we're currently opening. We would like to explore what it looks like to stagger shift and expand access into that after 5 space. And then
like I said, we should be able to increase outreach and community engagement based on the fact that we're meeting our goals of accessibility, appointment wait time. So we should be able to see that grow as well. Imagine office hours is a challenge, and so that's the goal, is for us to explore a solution to that. We are receiving over this past fiscal year an increasing number of really high complexity claims, individual situations that are being referred from out of county, which is absolutely a testament to the skill level of our office. And it's a resource that we have to make sure that we're able to provide or mitigate. You know, how, if they're coming from out of our jurisdiction, how are we advocating for services that are available within jurisdiction, not just for our capacity, but for the sake of the veteran having to, or feeling like they're having to travel long distances to get the services that they need. So that's part of my work, is advocating across jurisdictions to ensure that those services are being offered where they need to be. I have been doing some ongoing data analysis in our office of how our time is being spent. And most recently, when I look at, we have a system that monitors every single communication that occurs with our staff, whether it's in-office visits, emails, phone calls, anytime we have a touch point with a veteran or a veteran's advocate, or if we're coordinating care with an agency, we track those interactions. And right now, our administrative assistant position fields about 50% of those. So she's running a lot of interference, she's screening, she's directing veterans to resources that might not necessarily need to be handled by a veteran service officer. So that creates increased efficiencies in the office. We see complex cases all the time, which take a lot of research and with the VA and with care coordination teams. And so that's really where I want our staff operating at the top of their certification level. So that's where veteran service officers need to be investing their time, is on that care coordination, the claims work, the research. And so the fact that we've been able to have an administrative assistant that is screening and redirecting, and sometimes even able to answer basic questions that aren't then coming back to our veteran service officers, has been a huge efficiency piece. And budget constraints do put that position in jeopardy to be able to keep. So we're trying to explore creative ways to keep some of that capacity at least. We're underspent partly because it took us some time to get our veteran service officer on board. So staffing costs are the majority of this office's budget. I don't know if there are any specific details. I didn't dig
several elected different benefits than what we budgeted. So based on those changes, there was dramatic savings.
Yeah, so our veteran service officers are veterans themselves and have good coverage through the VA and their benefits. So yes, we had planned for full benefits for those folks, but that has been amended. Any questions for these folks?
Applaud, job well done. It sounds like you guys are exceeding expectations within the department. But just looking from a budget perspective, you know, when you get references from outside of the county where we're helping, you know, individuals from outside the county, how does that affect the funding that is being provided by Crook County? Or is it funded from the referring counties? How does that work?
It depends in some cases. So if a veteran is established with a veteran service officer in another jurisdiction, sometimes we can transition that over.
otherwise it stays with that veteran service officer that establishes care. So, we're probably not getting the state funding that we could be receiving for the number of veterans that we're serving. I am mostly monitoring, like, what are we able to serve? Are we still able to fully serve the veterans that we receive without delays, which they have been able to do? My thinking through that is that sustainable? Because I know the level of work that they do and the level, like I said, acuity of need is significant. You know, folks are coming in with a death in the family or a terminal illness diagnosis. Like it's hefty stuff typically that they're coming in for. And so that sustainability of the work, even though they're able to exceed that right now, I'm very mindful of. And if that means, like I said, we're always looking for additional funding. This is part of that, and also the advocacy to make sure that veterans are getting the care they need where they need it, which is a trick with the VA
Sure.
in general. But
I'm not implying not to provide the services. I didn't mean that. Yeah.
But I think there is some locus of control within our partnerships with the neighboring jurisdictions that we're using. And they're all very supportive. I think veterans are it's a common demographic that everybody's on board serving and serving well.
I think it's also important when we've had problems where we haven't had people there, we've had the neighboring counties step up, take care of our veterans.
The sharing goes both ways.
So yeah, it's a reciprocal confidence.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, in result of Katie just did a posting last week. I happen to be in meetings with Commissioner Adair and Commissioner DeBone. And I mentioned that we had, not that we were complaining, but I wanted them to become aware. So I raised that awareness, and where they go with that, I don't know. And like I say, I wasn't complaining, I was just giving them a condition. Yes, exactly. And I didn't want to come across that way, but I wanted them to know that we are seeing people from their county, they're advertising on TV and in radio ads and things. So I wanted them to be aware that we had. And the other day we had someone who were over to the courthouse, and Brianna was very kind to take them over to Veteran Services because they had gotten the wrong information from Deschutes and came to the courthouse. So there's a little communication that needs to be done.
And not necessarily from Deschutes as a county entity, but there's a lot of agencies that serve veterans Central Oregon wide who also provide referrals to VSOs.
And sometimes, I mean, they don't even know what county they live in. How do we know?
It's true. And there is a lot of overlap. Like, it makes more sense for someone living in Terre-Haute to come this way than go to Bend or Jefferson County. So there is always that kind of shared space. This is more an observation, especially related to high acuity cases that we've seen a pretty significant increase in.
Thank you.
I'm back. I'll share a little bit about Health and Human Services, which the majority of that is our public health services, prevention health promotion services. We went through a strategic planning process a little over a year ago, where these goals were identified as foundational things that need to happen to support our work department-wide. A lot of that has to do with staff retention, making sure that staff have the support that they need in order to do their jobs well. Financial stability, I think, will show up every single time in every department across the county. So that is something that we're very mindful of. We are always working to either identify new sources of funding or maximize the funding that we are getting. And then community engagement is vital to the work that we do. These are services that, for the most part, folks opt into. They seek out themselves. There are definitely services we provide that are either regulatory or state required on our end, but having strong community engagement and responsiveness to folks that live here, work here, is critical, especially when we're pulled from both the state requirements and federal requirements. We want to, as a local public health department, we want to stay rooted here with the needs in our community and make sure that we're not losing sight of those when we're also fulfilling all these other obligations. We've always been able to have staff dedicated to be part of community work groups, community partner meetings. We've continued that, and also we've worked really hard to make sure that we have FaceTime. We're not just attending meetings virtually. We are providing some consistency in who that staff member is, so that there's stronger relationships developed face to face and consistently. So we've been putting a lot of energy into that. And as I mentioned, the funding piece is that's something that's year round. I know we have this budget chunk of time for something, on a daily basis. We are in the process of developing performance management systems, and that is part of that, the staff support, making sure that expectations are very clear and supported and have touch points, not just at annual evals, but a weekly basis, a monthly basis, so that when we get to an evaluation period, it's not something that is new to them. We've been having these conversations all along, and that takes it takes systems, it takes a lot of intentionality to do that. And I'm very grateful to have a leadership team right now, a team of 2 managers and a deputy director who are providing supervision in addition to myself, who are very committed to this work to support our staff and very capable of doing so in addition to their day-to-day work plans. Workload is always something that we are trying to manage. I think it's come up in a couple of spaces of departments presenting so far today. The work has to be done no matter what. If someone calls in sick, if someone is out for an extended period of time, if someone leaves the organization, that work still has to happen. And so we cross-train as much as we can. That also puts additional workload on folks who are cross-trained. And it's pulling administrative staff, those manager level positions, into, we have to have the front desk covered. We have to, there's no option. And so how are we maximize, again, like I said, with veteran services, we're wanting our folks to work at the top of their certification or their position as much as possible from a cost effectiveness standpoint. And so that's something that we're actively building systems, monitoring, make sure we're meeting need as well as doing so in a cost effective way. We've been really fortunate to have a communications contractor over the last fiscal year who's taken a lot of work off of me and that management team in being able to develop press releases and being kind of an intermediary with the news. I don't know what happened this last week, but I got multiple calls from the media. Must be a slow week, but good to get the messages out around 6 stay home. So that additional communication support has been really critical. And then our partner work, like I said, those relationships that are so important when folks don't necessarily want to hear from me all the time about staying home and sick or being proactive and preventative care. And so who are other people who maybe have businesses that are looking at employee shortages because they're sick or out for extended leave, and so can they share some of that messaging on our behalf in a way that is more relatable to folks. I have touched on a lot of this. I think I touched on it. Core services include clinical access and family health services. Both of those service groups, core services, are affected by our capacity with an RN licensure. There's certain work that only our RNs can provide. RNs are top dollar. They are, it's a competitive market. And so we're always looking at ways like, whether it's through contracting or per diem work, that we're continuing to provide those core services. I think staffing across the board, one, I mentioned we cross-train, but so many of our positions are very specialized, and it takes a lot of work to cross-train. I was recently, well, all of our managers now are cross-trained in communicable disease investigation and response. So we are all now, in addition to our day-to-day, able to respond to tuberculosis. Which I cannot say that we haven't had. I've been like saying like, oh, we haven't had tuberculosis in a long time. We've broken that streak this year, and it is a significant body of work. But also we have more people trained to be able to support that. There is an incredible pace of change in our in public health in general. How many announcements came out of our federal systems related to public? I mean, I'm immersed in it all the time. I don't know how much the general news and people keyed into it, but there's a significant rate of change in public health across the country. And so it does take quite a bit of energy to both keep track of that, but also translate into something that even affects us locally, because that's the space that we operate in, is between federal and state, and then your full folks on the ground. But we also have to be aware, very aware, and making sure that we are providing meeting requirements as those change. We have several folks who we've been building pathways within the organization where as we were recruiting, I find that recruiting for attitude is incredibly important, and we can teach skill sets. So we do have folks, we have the right people in the right positions. We're on a growth track. We may anticipate them starting to meet requirements on those growth tracks to provide growth in their positions in this upcoming fiscal year. That does mean that we wouldn't necessarily be backfilling behind them. It's them being in the same position with acknowledging the growth that they've had in the training and experience that they've built doing that work over time. We're working with HR to update our job descriptions, create clarity, streamline them. Some of our job descriptions can be 8 or 9, or I don't know how many pages mine is. But from a recruiting standpoint, and then also as just having clear expectations with our staff and being able to support them with the work they're doing, that's a big undertaking. And we've also had folks in especially those specialized positions, like billing, that nursing, the options to keep folks on call when we do have people out, or heaven forbid somebody wants to take a vacation, needs to take a vacation, that we are able to have capacity to backfill those needs without interruption to service. I don't know that there's anything crazy with budget. This fiscal year has thankfully looked pretty good. We are typically underspent. Because of staffing, if we have a position, the majority of our budget goes to staffing, and so if we have something unfilled for a period of time, that affects our budget. But also for this fiscal year, we've been, there's a lot of talk early on about you're only going to get a quarter of this that you usually have. Carrie meant to talk about this too. So it's a similar situation where we don't really know how much funding we were getting at the beginning of the fiscal year, but it has made its way out into us over time.
Just a statement. I appreciate your emphasis on building people and providing opportunities for promotion and giving regular feedback to the employees and trying to build that culture. I think that'll go a long ways in building a very strong team long term.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just add a little comment on community outreach. Like this last week, we have a group called Food Insecurity, and it's from the churches, the library comes, just whoever wants to. And so the gal that runs your WIC program that Katie oversees, Rita, she came, and it was very enlightening because talked about the needs. And so there were all these people here, and we're all brainstorming and trying to figure out ways that we can help the mothers after or whatever, because she explained your constraints on funding and different things. So it is extremely important that those relationships are built, because maybe what Katie can't do a year after when WIC runs out that funding, someone else can pick up. So I commend Katie on sending these people up, because I think we all work together well as a team.
Here's hoping with planners around those 800 folks on a regular basis,
Yeah.
receiving those services. So, but having systems in place to mitigate any loss of funding is big, because it directly impacts families who live there.
We don't have any more questions, Katie.
No. Good job, Peter.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your report.
Thank you, Katie. That concludes our morning. I want to thank all the department heads who presented this morning and time to get ready for these presentations. Tomorrow we have presentations from the fairgrounds, community development, the road department, museum, library, assessor clerk, weed control, airport, and landfill. And we will reconvene at 8:15 again tomorrow morning. Here in the same location to continue those presentations. Thanks again to all the department heads, and thanks again to the board and everybody for being here this morning. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Will.
Motion to adjourn, maybe?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.